Joining us now to explore more regarding this topic is Muzi Siyaya, Group Business Development Executive at GIBB Engineering. Good to have you with us today, sir.
Good to have me, Gugu. Thank you.
Let's get your insights and perspective on this particular matter, the grooming of black industrialists and the conference that we just saw taking place there. Some of the key highlights and the feedback as to how to strategically get the ball rolling. What were some of them for you?
Look, it was a very good conference. And certainly from a GIBB's perspective, we fully support it. A lot of issues were covered, including public procurement policy. We looked at access to finance. We looked at capacity building and skills development. And an area of interest for us certainly was the public policy workstream. So our view is that it's a long overdue intervention, and it will certainly seek to create a balance in terms of our economic landscape, particularly by increasing the participation of black-owned enterprises in the mainstream economy.
Muzi, it's Lindsay Williams in Cape Town. President Jacob Zuma in his keynote speech talked about the industrial sector of the economy being one of the least transformed. You mentioned the lack of funding, or rather the conference addressing the lack of funding. And they're talking about loans of between 1% and 3%. I mean, the headline in the Business Day newspaper was state set to provide 1 billion to create black industrialists. 1 billion sounds like a lot, but it's not. But there's also the promise of other institutions coming in and providing 10 to 20 billion more. This isn't idle talk, is it? Do you think this is going to happen?
Look, certainly from what I observed in the conference, the DFIs came out in numbers. They sent out very senior delegations, and there appears to be a commitment to help government roll out this program. 1 to 3%, I mean, they're talking of a syndicated pool of funds, which could increase up to 10 billion to top up the 1 billion that's been offered by government. Certainly if we can get to those levels, it could go a long way in terms of helping black industrialists in the country.
So the money's there. We saw the stores on screen to show that the industrialists are there, but how many of these projects and the industrialists themselves have viable opportunities that actually have a solid business case?
A very good question. Interestingly, yesterday, the policy has drawn a distinction between established black industrialists and emerging black industrialists, which is certainly good. It's further proposing priority sectors. So you're looking at mining, manufacturing, agriculture. There's creative arts are there, services are there, which is our primary area of interest as engineers. But to the extent that the emerging industrialists, you would ordinarily expect them not to have any sort of business plans, but the ambitions are there, and those will have to be assisted extremely closely by government in terms of developing their business plans. On the one hand, you've got the established black industrialists who are perhaps looking at efficiencies and access to bigger markets as opposed to seed funding. So the policy is quite clear in terms of how it will intervene in the economy to promote black industrialists.
Muzi, has the industrial sphere, the industrial sector of the economy, got an image problem amongst young, educated black people who are forging their way after education into the world of business? I mean, when I look at the list of delegates here, I see industrialists, but I also see bankers, money managers, development financiers. Industry is not the most fashionable thing. Surely people would rather be bankers. Is that also a hurdle that we have to get over?
Certainly. I think our economy in the past has relied extensively on minerals and the commodity boom cycle. And it's time we go back to the basics. I mean, manufacturing contribution to GDP has declined steadily over the years. So this policy as well seeks to make it an attractive destination for young entrepreneurs to go into, but it will also diversify our economy, certainly from the over-reliance on minerals and commodities. And hopefully young upcoming students and entrepreneurs will take the opportunity to tap onto the funds that have been put forward by government. Certainly companies like us who are more on the established side of black businesses, we will play a role in helping emerging entrepreneurs and industrialists to build their business plans, certainly from a pre-feasibility study perspective where we've got the skills, and hopefully we can get this thing going in the next year or two.
Tell us about, from the organization that you represent, GIBB,
Yes.
engineering consulting firm. We know that the environment isn't too positive at the moment. Are these particular hindrances, the macroeconomic conditions, market sentiment, business confidence, in your attempts to help groom and establish these younger players who are coming online?
Engineering, you know, people tend to associate our sector with what's happening on the construction side of the business. But it's quite interesting that when economies are showing a decline in growth, governments typically tend to want to stimulate the economy through infrastructure spending, and we naturally tend to benefit as engineers that are involved on the feed side of the projects, front end engineering and design. So we haven't seen a decline, but on the power and energy side, certainly the impact on the load shedding and the downgrading of ESCOM is having an impact on our energy business. But overall, government has been the biggest spender in the market, and we continue to see projects, water and sanitation projects, road projects, rail projects. SOEs are spending significantly in terms of infrastructure development. So we haven't seen an impact on our business, and we're quite bullish. And the more opportunities we get, obviously, the more we can bring young engineers into the fold, and we're quite passionate about developing young black engineers, in particular as a black-owned firm. And we've got a very deliberate program of bursaries as well as a graduate internship program for young engineers in the business.
Muzi, what's the follow-up from here? The Indaba is over now, and it's been very laudable, all the things that we've spoken about now and that were spoken about at the Indaba, but can we guarantee that the momentum can be maintained and there will be a follow-up on all these not promises, but all these suggestions?
My sense, Lindsay, is that government is fully committed to this, as reflected by the President himself coming to the function. We also had a very high-powered delegation of cabinet ministers. But also the BBC should be given credit for having elevated this issue to the national agenda, and they've been very key to the process. Based on the outcomes yesterday, a couple of resolutions were obviously taken, and those have been forwarded to the DTI. Minister Davis alluded to the fact that they've mandated this process to the Deputy Minister, who's quite energetic, as we all know. So I think the political will to drive the program is there. The attendance also reflects a lot of excitement from the black industrialists themselves. And Minister Davis alluded to the fact that it's a key part of his strategy, and he wants this to tie in with the industrial IPAP plans, which are, as we know, already in motion. So I think there is commitment to get it done.
One step at a time, quite clearly. Thank you so much for your time today.